Hello, children. Tonight I'm going to be reading you The Wayward Princess. And as I am reading, I'm going to use my magic to make you all have vivid imaginations. Now don't be afraid to fall asleep, so that I could eat you later. I mean, so that you all could have sweet dreams. I'm just going to begin now. The Wayward Princess. A certain king believed that what he had been taught and what he believed was right. In many ways, he was just a man. But here was one whose ideas were limited. One day, he said to his 3 daughters, "All that I have is yours, or will be yours. Through me, you obtained your life. It is my will which determines your future, and hence determines your fate."
Dutifully, and quite persuaded of the truth of this, 2 of the girls agreed. The 3rd daughter, however, said, "Although my position demands that I be obedient to the laws, I cannot believe that my fate must always be determined by your opinions." "We shall see about that," said the king. He ordered her to be imprisoned in a small cell where she anguished for years. Meanwhile, the king and his obedient daughters spent freely of the wealth which would otherwise have been expended upon her. The king said to himself, "This girl lies in prison not by her own will, but by mine. This proves sufficiently for any logical mind that it is my will, not hers, which is determining her fate." The people of the country, hearing of their princess's situation, said to one another, "She must have done or said something very wrong for a monarch with whom we find no fault to treat his own flesh and blood so." For they had not arrived at the point where they felt the need to dispute the king's assumption of rightness in everything. From time to time the king visited the girl. Although she was pale and weakened from her imprisonment, she refused to change her attitude. Finally, the king's patience came to an end. "Your continued defiance," he said to her, "will only annoy me further, and seem to weaken my rights, if you stay within my realms. I could kill you, but I am merciful. Therefore, I banish you into the wilderness adjoining my territory. This wilderness, inhabited only by wild beasts and such eccentric outcasts who cannot survive in our rational society. There you will soon discover whether you can have an existence apart from that of your family, and if you can, whether you prefer it to ours." His decree was at once obeyed, and she was conveyed to the borders of the kingdom. The princess found herself set loose in a wild land, which bore little resemblance to the sheltered surroundings of her upbringing, but she soon learned that a cave would serve for a house, that nuts and fruit came from trees, as well as from golden plates, that warmth came from the sun. This wilderness had a climate and a way of existing of its own. After some time had so ordered her life, she had water from springs, vegetables from the earth, fire from a smoldering tree. "Here," she said to herself, "is a life whose elements belong together form a completeness, yet neither individually nor collectively do they obey the commands of my father the king." One day a lost traveler, as it happened, a man of great riches and ingenuity, came upon the exiled princess, fell in love with her, and took her back to his own country, where they were married. After a space of time the 2 decided to return to the wilderness, where they built a huge and prosperous city where their wisdom, resources, and faith were expressed to their fullest possible extent. The eccentrics and other outcasts, many of them thought to be madmen, harmonized completely and usefully with this many-sided life. The city and its surrounding countryside became renowned throughout the entire world. It was not long before its power and beauty far outshone that of the realm of the princess's father. By the unanimous choice of the inhabitants, the princess and her husband were elected to the joint monarchy of this new and ideal kingdom. At length the king decided to visit the strange and mysterious place which had sprung up in a wilderness, and which was, he heard, peopled at least in part by whom he and his like despised.
With bowed head, he slowly approached the foot of the throne upon which the young couple sat, and raised his eyes to meet those repute of justice, prosperity, and understanding of far exceeded his own. He was able to catch the murmured words of his daughter. "See, father, every man and woman has his own fate and his own choice."
Ah, they're asleep.
Well, time to eat.
Children pot pie.